Hi, my name is Deanna Southard, and I am presenting on my final topic for EMEN 5031 Software Project Management. For my final topic, I spoke with Kevin Taylor, who happens to be my uncle. Kevin is a fellow over at Comcast in the Research and Development Project Department. I felt he was a valuable resource to interview because he has worked in all manners of projects. He started as a warehouse worker way back in the 70s, and happened to get into simple data entry, and from there, because of his skill with quickly understanding what a project needed and how to get a project accomplished, he was able to work his way up to his current position. I felt that he would have a lot of valuable information, particularly in my chosen topic, which was risk analysis. I was interested in learning how project managers were able to accurately estimate their projects when the size of their projects could be massive. Kevin's in charge of a large number of people. He once showed me a picture of his organizational responsibilities, and it honestly looked like one of those charts that you had of spaghetti code. It was just lines everywhere of people who were people he was responsible for answering to. In terms of their questions, the people he was responsible for directing and managing and ensuring that their projects were all going correctly. And in the case of Comcast, we had some very interesting discussions about risk analysis as it came into play with the recent merger between Comcast and Time Warner. And anybody who's been paying attention has known that merger failed to go through after many months of very serious discussions and talks, and the merger failed due to allegations raised that it would result in a cable and high-speed internet monopoly. The FCC was threatening to investigate, and it did seem like not only would the merger not go through because of the financial negotiations, but also the legal ramifications of an investigation and potential fines and potential blocks by the legal regulating bodies. But Kevin was in charge of trying to work with the Time Warner, his Time Warner co-part, and try to manage a program that would chart what was needed between him and the Time Warner people in order to properly integrate the two systems. And it was really interesting to hear from him about the experience where the risk analysis portion began to become kind of total, I guess, because it was he talked about how hard it was to try to work toward their stated goal of coming up with a project that would completely integrate the two systems, when it became clearer and clearer that the merger wasn't going to go through. And he said in that aspect, it was really hard to work in the face of such overwhelming risk, because they knew as it got later on during the negotiations, they knew that the merger wasn't going to go through, and so it was hard to try to put any real focus on the work, and not even just at his level, but all the people working underneath him. It was really hard to motivate them to continue working towards their stated goal when it became clear that goal was never going to be accomplished. And so my major point that I pulled out of our conversations was that in order to really manage risk and to really manage a team, Kevin was very adamant that communication was the most important thing. We talked about all the different methods of program management. I asked him about whether his team was very focused on, agile methodologies, or if they were more focused on waterfall, because he'd been around for so long that they still had very many older methods in their systems, and he was frustrated with the fact that it seems today that it has to be one way or the other, or there has to be a one-fit solution to every problem. He was very adamant about the fact that every tool is merely a tool that somebody has come up with to improve the communication of a team, and that the project manager's major focus is to elicit clear and complete and error-free communication between all members of the team. He said that it doesn't matter if you have very skilled technical knowledge if you can't communicate that properly. And it doesn't matter if you're using, the latest, greatest, newest method that'll improve your productivity by tenfold, some nonsensical silver bullet in software engineering. He was very adamant that every new thing is simply a new tool to try to get clear communication, and that every communication is what it all comes down to when you're managing a project. His advice was it made a lot of sense to me, because he has gone from managing very small teams to managing thousands of people, and when you start to get into a very large team, any sort of miscommunication can be almost deadly to a project, because you will have people working against each other. Their different parts may be butting heads, and they might not ever know it because they don't understand fully what the requirements of the system are, what the end goal is. I asked him if he thought that, just the small code developers should have any sort of idea of the larger picture, and he thought that while it was good, it should really be up to the project manager to elicit that good conversation and to elicit the clear communication, so that your lower level developer doesn't need to know all the details. He just needs to know very clearly what he's doing and be able to have very clear-cut answers and a path to getting those answers if any questions arise. And so our conversations started out by focusing on how he was able to estimate release dates, because he's in charge of releasing new software to all the different cable boxes across the U.S. And how large Comcast is. That's hundreds of thousands of users with dozens of different cable boxes of varying. Some of them are brand new, some of them are older, but they're still being supported. And his major focus, is constantly communication. A project manager needs to be able to communicate goals to his people, communicate questions to upper management, communicate problems early on. If there is any sort of time delay or time schedule that's just not working, if there's going to be a missed release date, they need to be able to communicate that early and quickly and be able to come up with a solution. So I'm really happy to discuss with him his role in the company and what he thought was the most important takeaway, I guess, from all of our discussions. And I hope that comes across in my project and my final paper. Thank you very much.